Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Michael Levy, author of Cutting Truce. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul.
Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready, willing, and able.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
The first thing I would tell them basically is don't take life or your writing serious. If you do, then you're going to put yourself under the cosh for deadlines. You're going to try and perfect your writing, and nobody ever perfects writing. There'll always be a typo or something, that a grammatical mistake that the best of the best will do, no matter how many copywriters they have. So don't look for perfection, don't take yourself seriously, and don't take your writing seriously. Although it's something that you have a passion for and it's something that you're going to enjoy doing, once you take it seriously, you will then become entrapped in that seriousness, and it won't be as free-flowing as it should and could be.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Well, it depends on how you approach getting published. Today there's a vast arena of getting published. You can go to go to what you call a bona fide publishing house, like McGraw-Hill or somebody like that, or you need to go to an agent. And agents are very picky today. And unless you're a celebrity or somebody that's got some special talent already publicized, a regular person who's trying to get off base will find it very difficult to find a really good agent. And one thing I'll warn any young writer that's coming along: never pay anybody to begin with who promise you they're going to do this and they're going to do that or the other for you. Mm-hmm. Wait and find what it is that you need to be doing. So if you feel as though your work is good enough for a big publishing house, then work on your writing, whatever you need to be doing, whatever genre you're going to be writing on. And once you've written your book, then you'll start to find, or even halfway through it even, start to find different avenues of the publishing world. So the main one, it would be, the idea is you go to a big publishing house. But today, you've got other people. There's smaller companies like he's got a publishing company. I've spoken to him a little bit before this interview, and he's a very authentic man who's got ways that he's brought himself and the 14 books that he's written. He's done that via the intelligence within his system. Even though he's a well-educated and intellectual person, his intelligence is to the foremost. With most writers, they write from an intellectual standpoint, and a lot of the time they forget about a lot of the intelligence that they were born with. It's more of the education that they're going to be writing with. So when you're looking for publishing, there's a lightning source will publish you. It's free, more or less. They might charge a little bit for a setup. Probably, I don't know what it is, $50 or something. But they're connected to Ingram's, which is the biggest book distributor in the world. So you could go through that. But even better than that today, there's a place called CreateSpace, which is owned by Amazon. and it's all free. All you need to do is send them a Word document or a PDF file of what you've written, and you can choose one of their covers, a generic cover, or you can put your own cover on it, however you want to. They'll set it all out for you, give you the means to set it all out, and you send it to them. They'll send you a proof copy within a couple of days, and once it's approved, you're on Amazon within a few days, and you can get worldwide distribution within a week or so. But now they've made some new changes at Amazon, and Kindle are taking over CreateSpace. So because Kindle are taking over CreateSpace, any authors who are with them, they've got to redo the books. And what's happened to me is I've written 16 books, but some of them didn't transform well from the one venue to the Kindle venue. And the book that I wrote, Cutting Truths, the Kindle part of it never came through. The text didn't come through, or the cover. For whatever reason it was, there's some technical hitch with it, but the paperback came through fine on it. So what I've done over the past couple of weeks, this is very recent, and this is what problems that writers will come across. I had to send them the interior again, and then I picked out a cover for it, a new cover. So the cover for the Kindle is different to the cover for my original, so it's like a new edition. And because it's a new edition, I took a thing that they'll give you is a free promotion for 5 days. So I've now got 2 days left of this free promotion, which I wouldn't have had normally had it gone through in a normal way. But because it didn't, I had the advantage of being able to publish it separately to the paperback. And that means over the past few days, a lot of people have gone online, downloaded it, and I think yesterday when I looked at it, I think it was number 7 ranking on New Age Thought and a few other metaphysics and things like that, and quite high ranking overall. So it gives you your ranking up, so you get higher rankings on Amazon, and you're doing good for allowing other people to read it for free. Now, I don't know whether I think it's just in their library, and after 5 days, people, if they like reading the book, maybe have to go out and buy the hard copy, the paperback, or they can buy a proper Kindle and they can download it on their phones or the computers. But it gives them 5 days to read the book and get interested in it. So it's a good way of attracting an audience where you haven't got one. So if you use things like LinkedIn and Goodreads and Twitter, and you just put that out there that you have a free book for them, this is a good way for people starting off to publish their own book to go down. And that's the easy path to go down. And I always find there's 2 ways in life to take. There's the hard path or the easy path. Sometimes the hard path, what they call the hard path, may be more intellectually sound and give you a better reputation. But that's something that a writer should never even concern themselves about. If you know your writing is authentic, people will find you.
Absolutely, and that ties in perfectly to our next question, and that is, of course, about marketing, which you've just shared some great examples, and that is to please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Well, I don't really go for strategy. Once I decided that I was going to write, which is, let me see now, it took me 6 years of time out to try and figure out the meaning of life and what we human beings are doing here on planet Earth. And it was 6 years of constant thought process, whether I'm playing golf, playing bridge, or going out for a meal. Thoughts are swirling around in my mind, or whether I'm sitting on my balcony overlooking the ocean at night, looking up to the heavens, seeing this little speck of me, looking up into this vast universe, and trying to figure out what am I doing here, why am I here, and the purpose of it all. after the 6 years, I thought, what am I going to do with all these thoughts I've accumulated? I then bought a computer. I then started to do research, going back into Greek philosophy and into mythology and many different areas of religion and science and spirituality. And what I understood was I'd come to there's a correlation between what all the sages of the past have said and the ideas that I'd come up with that nobody ever fed me. It was just given to me through my thought process of intelligence and the wisdom that I was born with. So because I accepted the ideas and then I wanted to find out, I took another 6 months time out to find out what I'm going to do now. Now, I had a little devil on one shoulder and a little angel on the other. The angel said, you're meant to write this stuff down and allow other people to follow an example of how you lived your life and how you've succeeded despite everybody telling you it's impossible for you to succeed. And the other side said, well, it is impossible for you to succeed. You left school at 16, you can't spell properly. What are you even thinking about writing books? It's not you've never even been in that field before. It's not part of your system. You're a businessman. You're a good businessman, but you're certainly not a writer. And that dichotomy went on for 6 months. And one day, I just woke up one morning, I started scribbling stuff down. Within 10 days, I'd written my first book, called What Is the Point? And within 3 months, I'd written 3 books. The second one was Minds Are Blue, Souls of Gold. And the third one was Enjoy Yourself, It's Later Than You Think. Those 3 aren't in print at the moment. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing with those 3. But the first one did do very, very well to begin with. So, but what I did, basically, and the vow I made myself was that I'll never use PR, I'll never use advertising to convince anybody of anything or try and sell anybody any of my books. And that's the only reason why I actually accepted the joy of writing. Because without making that vow to myself, it would be another business I'd be creating. And because I'd be creating another business, then it would be incumbent upon me to go out and start to publicize it, go to book signings, which I've never done. And after a few months, the chicken soup guys heard of me. They live in Delray Beach. I live in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. And I got a phone call from the guy that owns the chicken soup business, who had Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield partner with him to write the chicken soup books. And he called me into his office and said, we'd like you to be one of our writers, and they tell me all the process and everything like that. I said, well, what would you expect of me if I did that? He said, well, you go to book signings, you go on a circuit, there's like a circuit of speakers that you would go with, and you would promote you and all that kind of stuff. I said, but, you know, I've retired from the business world and I'm not really interested. And I've made this vow to myself that I don't want to go down that route. If I came in with you, I won't do any promotions for the book. Whatever you do with it is your business. Oh, he said, we can't do that. You've got to be the one that goes out there. And I said, I understand what you're saying. And with that, the phone rang, and Victor Hansen rings up, and he says, he starts going on about this, that, and the other. So he puts his hand over the phone. He says, we're millions with these books, and he's still more interested in going further with stuff. He said, sometimes he gets carried away with it. So I thought, well, you know what, this is not for me. So I said, I thank you very much for the offer. I really appreciate it, but I don't think that's the route I want to go down. And that would have been an opportunity. By now, I would have been probably a mega well-known author. And another opportunity I turned down was with PBS, and it was a similar thing. They called me in. I gave them all the spiel for about 15, 20 minutes. And I said, I don't want to do a show like I've just said to you. I said, I know that's what you want to hear, and that's how you want to do it. I said, but I want to do it unrehearsed. I don't want to come into the studio. I don't know what I know I'm going to be saying. You'll have a studio audience. Let them ask me any questions that they want. And let's see how it goes. Let's just do it free-flowing. Let's see how it all goes through. And they said, we can't do it that way. That's not the way it's done. I said, I know it's not the way it's done. All the shows I can see on TV are all contrived, rehearsed. And But that's not what life's about. We don't rehearse our lives. Life isn't a rehearsal. And things happen to people on a daily basis, and they want to know what they can do about it. They need to find out at that moment, which way do I go? Which path do I take? And unless they're pre-warned and pre-armed with something that they've had inside them from being a baby, then a lot of the times they're going to make the wrong decisions and fall into deep holes. Because for most people, when they use strategy, it's coming from their education. And because it's coming from education, education can be a blessing or a curse. Now, each human being has an intellect and an intelligence. We're all born with intelligence, same as the animals, the trees, the ocean, the rocks, all contain intelligence. But we human beings have what we would call a logic and reason understanding on things. And because we do, we can analyze it in a different way. And often that education starts to come on board and confine and restrict the intelligence that we're born with. And because it starts to restrict it, its path narrows and its choices narrows, and the fear and the emotions come into play, and the doubts and the competition and the jealousies and all that kind of stuff come into play. And it constricts the brain so much so that the creativity that needed to come through starts to restrict itself, and a lot of writers get what they call writer's block, and that's the reason why they get it. They've blocked themselves in with their education. And education is a tool, and it's a tool to be used with the wisdom and the intelligence and the truth that is inherent in all life forms. And you can't fake it. It's there for us throughout our life once we allow it to process our thoughts for us. So basically, the strategy is know thyself.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So, what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Well, again, I kind of break the mold from most people. Like I said, I left school at 16, and I've read no books in my life of any note. I suppose growing up I did read the Bible, and I thought they were great fairy stories, so I enjoyed reading those stories in the Bible. And when I researched further and saw the correlation between mythology and the stories, and I could see where they'd all come from, it was an easy fix. But having said that, there's a great in-depth wisdom in the Bible and in the scriptures and things like that, where the morals of life can be taught. As long as we don't take the things in there by the latter, take it by the spirit that's within it. And same with mythology. The stories in mythology that are incredible, and there's great morals to, like things like Narcissus, who loved himself, his reflection, and he turned to resin. So those are things when pride comes before a fall. These are lessons that you can learn in mythology or in the Bible, things like that. But for me, it was basically a clear slate. I had no restrictions on the expression and the way I wanted to put the message out. And because it was a want to begin with and a need and a process of the need, then basically it took over, and then I became a poet. The poetry came in hand in glove with the writing, because philosophy requires some form of poetry to make it into more of a understandable, livable philosophy. A lot of the philosophy that people and kids learn in universities today is very analytical in nature. And because it's analytical, most of it isn't livable. Some of the metaphysical bits are, but that's by the by. You don't get too much of that. So to live authentically as a human being on earth, you got to understand that you're a human being, you're not an ego being. And because the ego is masterful and it uses its intellect as a weapon, it douses the intelligence and it takes over. And that's why you've got this trouble in the world today. And that's why you've got so many things today that are rehearsed and coerced, and every I's got to be dotted, everything's just got to be so. And basically, we're getting more and more robotized with the high technology, and it's taking humanity down a very strong, slippery slope to extinction. And it's done by this intellectual brain that's not even for one moment seeking any form of intelligence to guide its path. It knows its own path. And because intellect knows its own path with its ego, it makes many, many mistakes and falls, creates many wars over the centuries. It gives people cancer too soon. It gives them heart attacks too soon. It gives them bad eating habits. It gives them bad drinking habits, bad social manners. It gives them worry and anxiety and stress. All totally unnecessary. Nobody ever needs to have one moment outside the realms of joy. And joy means Joy. Just obey yourself. The true self that's been around forever. It was around before you were born. It came into you when the sperm hit the egg and the first cell was starting to expand into many other cells. And while we were in the womb, we were a universal being. We had all the wisdom of the universe while we were developing. Sure, we were getting DNA and the chromosomes from our parents. They had some codes in it, which can make an influence in the way we think, for sure. But that's all overcomable. That's not written. Nothing of that is written in stone. And once we're born onto Earth. So from being a universal being, as a baby opens its eyes, we look around and become an earthly being. Now we're now on Earth. So we're now part of Earth, and as we progress from being a baby into a kindergarten and seeing our parents, and as we start to learn through our hearing, through our sight, and we're picking up the mannerisms of our parents, all that conditioning starts to play a role. And all of a sudden we start to learn as we can speak and things, oh, we're English or we're American or we're Japanese. So we now constricted ourselves from being universal, from earthly, to being just from a country. And then we found out we've got a religion that we were born into or not. So whatever we're born into, that's another identity that's constricting us. And for many, it's not movable throughout their lifetime. So more constriction is squeezed. And then we start school and start learning lessons, and the teachers tell us to do this, stop smiling, you can't smile in class, you don't be cheeky, you can't laugh and joke, this is not the place for laughing and joking, it's all serious stuff. And when I was at school, I only thought it was a playground, and the teachers were my playmates. And throughout the up to being 16 years of age, I was playing with the teachers, and they were trying to teach me, and we both kind of failed at it. But the fact is, I enjoyed my school as playing at it, but when they tried to make it serious for me and gave me the strap in those days, or whatever, for being cheeky, I took it, I smiled after giving, used to call it 6 of the best. You used to hold your hand out, and you get a strap, 6 of the best. And there were tears were coming out of my eyes because it was kind of painful. And I said, can I have one more for good luck, please? As the tears were rolling down my eyes. So wow. The spirit was there, you see, and that's what I grew up with. So that was my basis, basically, of what you call my strategy.
Got it. Well, for our final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Well, I could say it's Voltaire, don't take life seriously, nobody gets out alive.
I like that.
I've just gone over that. If I wanted to take somebody else's quote, but I don't. I have put other people's quotes in some of my books to verify what I'm writing about is authentic. And some of it goes back many centuries, some of it goes back 2,000 years or more. But my quote is, time is your most precious asset. Spend it wisely. The only thing we own on Earth, while we have a present... Well, time is an illusion anyway. It doesn't exist. It only exists while humanity exists. When humanity is gone, time disappears too. because there's nobody there to monitor it. But while we're here, we do use clocks and we use watches and we use time as a mechanism and a measurement. And we have a lifespan. And that lifespan maybe lasts 10 minutes. A baby can come in the world and 10 minutes later it's gone. Or it might last 10 years. Or it might last 100 years. The time span isn't important. What is important is to enjoy every moment that you're here on earth, and to enjoy it in a way and a purpose and the reason why you've been put on earth. And to understand that is a fundamental foundation that every writer needs to understand, whether you're going to be writing novels, whether you're going to be writing textbooks, whatever you're going to be writing, you've got to have that basic fundamental of understanding the joy of writing. And if you can't find that to begin with, then as you go through the process of writing, all you're going to do throughout your life, you might write bestsellers, you might become very famous, but making money isn't going to make you successful. It'll give you a lot of money in the bank, and it'll give you maybe luxury homes. But, I can go out and buy a gold watch. I'll look at it, I'll put it on my wrist, look at it, very nice. And 5 minutes later, I don't even think about it. I can go out and buy a Mercedes 550, go in it, sit in it 5 minutes, drive it, and then never use any of the gadgets in it. So it really doesn't matter. You can afford these things and these gadgets and everything, what you call the foibles of life, but that's all they are, the foibles. And no matter how rich you are, you got a 250-foot yacht, you got a 400-foot yacht, it costs you 400 million. So what? Doesn't matter. Or you're a beach bum sitting on the beach, or a guy I met in Key West a couple of years back, and he was feeding the chickens in Key West, and I got speaking to him, and he told me he walked all the way from LA to Key West, and the people in the town look after him, and he has a few coconuts, and he chops the coconuts up, and so he lets people drink from them, and people give him a donation or whatever. And we had a great conversation together, and he gave me one of the greatest compliments I've ever been paid. He says, "You're rare." And I says, "And it's been my delight to speak to you today, and you're also very rare." So you meet people like that along your path. And I've also met a few billionaires, some who are so constricted with their life and worried about this, that, and the other. And quite a few that I've known have died in the early or late 60s and 70s because of the lifestyle that we're living. But I've let one or two others who have let the reins out on themselves, and they do allow a little bit of the wisdom to come in. They've not got the true picture. They call me up occasionally and they want to speak to me and want some kind of direction and stuff like that. Whether it be stock market investments, which I've done for 50 years very successfully. I did commercial property in England very successfully. My wholesale textile company I ran very successfully and retired at 46 years of age. So those are the easy parts, making the money side of it. That's simple, simple, simple. People should never find that a difficulty. If they do, they need to read Cutting Truths, because it takes away the fluff of everything. It tells you, if you want to go on a self-discovery journey, this is the book that you need to read. But it's not been read by many people. The reason being is today's world, people are intellectually led and fed. And an intellect cannot read that book. Unless that intellect is being guided by wisdom or some form of intelligence, it will not even bother to get it for free. It won't do it. Something there say, yeah, why would I want to go and do that? I don't want to go down that route. And that is what it's going to restrict them throughout their life until the last breath that they gasp. And just before that last breath, every human being gets this eureka moment. And that moment comes in with a flash. And it says, why did I worry? Why did I do this? Why did I spend doing that? Why have I done all that? Because here I'm leaving Earth now. and I've left it all untouched. The true treasures are going to be taken into my cemetery with me, or into my cremation with me. I've never really actually used them. I used a lot of talent. I used a lot of my know-how. I was a good salesman. I could talk to people well, but I never had the satisfaction of sitting down with myself alone and being in perfect company. Because, in truth, we're never, ever alone. And what I'd like to do, if I can, Paul, is just leave you with a poem. It's actually from a book that I've not even mentioned called That's Rich. It's not even on my website. I put it out on Amazon a few months back, and nobody even knows about it. But I'm just going to open up a page in there. Let's see what I can open up at. Any page will do, because it's half poetry and half essays in it. And actually, it's very apropos. And this is called Within All Things. I am the prayer within the prayer. I am the gem vision within the sparkling stare. I am the sapphire within life's tree. I am the stream of light within the glee. I am the thermal within the heat, the ruby ether within the form, the golden sire within the heartbeat. I am the calm within the storm. I am the aura within crystal glow, the diamond sparks within the glistening sea, the pearl essence within the fragrant rose. I am the matrix of nature, reproduced naturally. I am what I am. Everything is within the no-thingness of me.
Well, Michael, I want to thank you for sharing that poem. That was awesome. And I also want to thank you for being a guest on the show today. I do want to ask, what is the best way for people to find you online?
Easiest way is go to my website, pointoflife.com. Or you can go to Twitter at Michael Levy. Same at LinkedIn at Michael Levy. And Amazon, if you just put in Michael Levy, author, poet, philosopher, some of the books will come up that I've written, and they're all on there, and they're all around the world. But like I said, they're hidden for a reason. And because the media or the people I've spoken to don't feel as though it's appropriate for them to go down the route that I would suggest people go down, then it is what it is. This is where it's meant to be. And it's not for me to try and promote myself or try and prove myself to any other human being. I've got nothing to prove. What I write works. It's been there since the beginning of time. It might be put over in slightly different ways, and some of the time it might shake up the reader. But if somebody reads a book and they already want to read the favorite author or whatever, and they know what they're actually going to be reading, well, they're already pre-programmed for it, and it's like it's singing to the choir, singing to the converted, basically. But if somebody wants to challenge themselves on a life's journey and want to find a new thought, a way of processing themselves so that they can found that foundation which we spoke about earlier, that contains the intelligence and wisdom that's innate in every cell of the body, then for sure my books will help them to start the process. All they'll do, though, is take them to a doorway. Reading it won't do anything for anybody. Zero. Understanding them will make a difference. But that won't do anything either. Because reading and understanding are fine. Yeah, I understand it. But then it takes an action. And the action is walking through this doorway of no thing discovering this know thing of what we are and how it produces everything we need to live an excellent human existence.
Well, Michael, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you, Paul. And the same to you. I wish you great success with your publishing company.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.